The lights of Nexus Station burned bright against the darkness of space. Inside the massive structure, representatives from dozens of alien species gathered in the main hall. The air hummed with translated voices. This was the annual trade summit where the galaxy made its biggest decisions. Ambassador Lyria stood near the observation window. Her silver skin caught the light as she watched the stars. She was Sylvari, a species known for their love of peace and knowledge. Today she felt uneasy. The Kravesh Empire was causing problems again. Across the hall, Admiral Vextar towered over most other beings. The Kravesh were warriors, built like walking tanks with thick armor-plated skin. Vextar's forearms were crossed over his massive chest. His eyes glowed red with barely contained anger. The Sylvari had claimed a mining system that the Kravesh Empire wanted. Either side would back down. The Tarsus system belongs to the Confederation, Lyria said calmly. We discovered it. We registered it with the Council. Your claim has no legal standing. Vextar slammed one fist on the negotiating table. Legal standing means nothing when backed by weak ships. The Kravesh Empire takes what it needs. That system has resources we require for our fleets. Other ambassadors shifted nervously. Everyone knew this could lead to war. The galaxy had enjoyed peace for 300 years under the Galactic Council's guidance. But peace was fragile. Counselor Mordesh raised his hand for silence. He was ancient, even by galactic standards. His species had been exploring space when most others were still learning to make fire. His weathered face showed concern. We will put this to a vote tomorrow. Until then, both parties will remain calm. No military action will be taken. That was when the alarm started. Red lights flashed throughout the station. A computerized voice announced an emergency. Spatial anomaly detected. All ships maintain position. Security teams to stations. Every screen in the hall switched to show external cameras. Lyria pressed her face close to the observation window. In the space between the station and the gathered diplomatic ships, reality was tearing open. It looked like someone had cut a wound in the universe. Purple and blue energy crackled around the edges of a growing tear in space-time. The physics of it were impossible. No known technology could create such a thing. Yet there it was, expanding with each passing second. What is that? A Dravanian ambassador whispered, his tentacles curling in fear. Get weapons ready, Vextar commanded his crew over his communicator. The Kravesh never waited to understand something before preparing to fight it. Through the tear, something massive began to emerge. First came a nose of dark metal, angular and sharp. Then the main body appeared, sliding through the impossible opening like a shark through water. It was a ship, but it was unlike any ship in the galactic database. The vessel was enormous. It made the largest Kravesh dreadnought look like a child's toy. Its hull was dark gray, almost black, with strange angles that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Weapons dotted its surface, though their designs were unfamiliar. Strange symbols covered sections of the hull and what looked like writing. The ship cleared the spatial tear completely. The wound in space sealed behind it with a flash of light and a boom that shook Nexus Station. Then the ship simply stopped. It hung in space, dark and silent, positioned perfectly between all the diplomatic vessels in the station. Attempt communication, Mordesh ordered. The station sent out hails on every known frequency, standard greetings in 200 languages, emergency broadcasts, direct laser communications. Nothing worked. The ship remained silent. Its systems showed as active on scans, but it gave no response. Lyria studied the writing on the hull through the magnified view screens. Something about it seemed familiar. She pulled up her datapad and searched through ancient linguistic files. Her eyes widened. Those symbols, she said quietly. I think they're human. The hall fell silent. Every species knew the stories about humans. They were legends, myths, a warning tale told to young ones. 400 years ago, humanity had been part of the galactic community. Then came a terrible war. The details were lost to time, but everyone knew the ending. Earth had been destroyed. The humans had vanished. Most assumed they went extinct. Counselor Mordesh's expression changed completely. For the first time in centuries, Lyria saw him look afraid. That cannot be, Mordesh whispered. The humans are gone. They died with Earth. Are you certain? Lyria asked. Because that ship right there suggests otherwise. Vextar studied the vessel with new interest. The Kravesh remember humans, warriors, fierce, unpredictable. If that is truly a human ship, we must proceed carefully. Scanners worked overtime trying to penetrate the ship's hull. The results were confusing. Life support systems were active. The reactor was running at minimal power, but they could not detect any life signs. The ship's shields blocked deeper scans. It might be automated, a technician suggested. A ghost ship, or a trap, Vextar added. Hours passed. The ship remained motionless and silent. Diplomatic vessels from other systems began arriving, drawn by emergency broadcasts. Soon dozens of ships surrounded the human vessel. Everyone wanted to see this impossible thing. Lyria convinced the council to send her as part of a boarding team. We need to understand what this is. Sitting here staring at it accomplishes nothing. Vextar also volunteered. The Kravish will not let others face danger alone. We will send warriors. Mordesh looked troubled but agreed. A joint team then. But I warn you both. If these truly are humans, they may not be the same species we remember. 400 years alone can change a people. As preparations began, Lyria noticed Mordesh pull up ancient files on his private terminal. His hands shook slightly as he read. Whatever the old counselor knew about the humans and their disappearance, he was not sharing it. The ship hung in space, dark and waiting. Across the station, beings from 100 worlds watched and wondered. The vessel that should not exist had appeared from nowhere. And now the galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. Deep inside the human ship, systems continued their silent vigil. Sensors watched the gathering vessels. Weapons remained powered but inactive, and somewhere in the ship's core, a recording waited to be discovered. A message from Captain Sarah Chen to whoever was brave enough or foolish enough to come aboard. The humans had returned, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again. The boarding shuttle approached the human ship slowly. Inside, Lyria checked her equipment for the third time. Beside her, 3 Kravesh warriors sat in their combat armor, weapons ready. The team also included 2 Dravanian scientists and a security officer from the station. Approaching docking port, the pilot announced. The ship has not responded to our requests, but a docking bay door just opened. Seems to be inviting us in. Vextar grunted. Either hospitality or a trap. Only one way to find out, Lyria replied. The shuttle settled into the docking bay. Through the windows, the team saw a vast empty space. Lights flickered on automatically as they landed, revealing a clean, organized bay. Everything looked new despite the ship appearing 400 years old. As the shuttle door opened, atmosphere rushed in. Sensors confirmed it was breathable for most species. The temperature was comfortable. But something felt wrong. The air had a strange quality that made the team uneasy. Weapons ready, Vextar ordered his warriors. They moved out first, scanning for threats. The bay remained empty and silent. Lyria stepped onto the human ship. Her boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. Everything was so clean, so ordered. Yet there was no crew. No sign of life. Look at this, one of the Dravanian scientists called out. He pointed to writing on the wall. Human letters, clear and precise. It says Bay 7. This ship is big enough to need numbered docking bays. They found a door leading deeper into the ship. It opened automatically as they approached. The corridor beyond was lit with soft white lights. The walls were lined with panels displaying information in human writing. The team moved forward carefully. That was when the ship woke up fully. Lights blazed brighter. A deep hum vibrated through the floors. Screens throughout the corridor activated, showing images that made the team freeze in place. They were not attacking images. They were memories. Battle recordings. The screen showed human soldiers fighting impossible odds. Ships outnumbered 10-1, still pressing forward. Ground troops holding positions against overwhelming force. Again and again, humans refused to retreat. They adapted. They learned. They won. But these were not just images. Something about them reached into the minds of the boarding team. They could feel the determination. The absolute refusal to surrender. It was not a threat. It was a statement of fact. This is what humans were. This is what they had become. One of the Kravesh warriors backed against a wall, breathing hard. What is this? Some kind of weapon? Psychological warfare, Lyria said quietly. They want us to understand what we are dealing with. The images faded. The team continued forward, more cautious now. They found crew quarters. Each room showed signs of recent use. A book left open on a desk. A jacket hanging on a chair. Coffee cups still sitting on tables. But no people. Where is everyone? a Dravanian scientist asked. Vextar checked a cup of coffee. This is still warm. They were here recently. Very recently. They reached the bridge. The command center was impressive. Stations for dozens of crew members surrounded a central chair. Screens displayed star charts showing territories the team did not recognize, systems far beyond council space. Entire sectors that should be empty according to galactic maps. Lyria approached a console. It activated at her touch. Human writing appeared on the screen, then shifted to galactic standard. The ship's computer was adapting to them. Ship designation UHSF Indomitable. She read aloud. United Human Space Forces, Scout Class, launched stardate. That would be 5 years ago by our calendar. 5 years, Vextar repeated, not 400. The humans did not die out. They have been out there this whole time. Lyria found the captain's log files. They were encrypted, but as she watched, the encryption unlocked itself. The ship wanted them to see this. A holographic image appeared above the command chair. A human woman in a crisp military uniform looked out at them. My name is Captain Sarah Chen of the UHSF Indomitable. The recording began. If you are watching this, you have boarded my ship. You have passed the first test. You chose curiosity over immediate violence. That is a good sign. Captain Chen's image walked around the command chair, speaking as if to the boarding team directly. You are wondering where humans went. Why we disappeared. I will tell you the truth. We did not die. We left. The hologram showed images of Earth burning, cities destroyed, billions dead. 400 years ago, something terrible happened. A war that nearly ended humanity. The Galactic Council of that time said they would help us. They lied. They left us to die. So we left them. Vextar and Lyria exchanged glances. This matched nothing in official histories. The survivors scattered, Chen continued. We went to the darkest corners of space. Places you never explored. We built new worlds, new ships, new weapons. We did what we had to do to survive, and we became very good at it. The hologram showed glimpses of human colonies, massive space stations, fleets of warships, technologies that looked decades ahead of council standards. For 400 years we watched you, Chen said. We observed the council. We saw the same species that left us to die continue their lives as if we never existed. We asked ourselves, do they deserve to know we survived? Have they changed? The captain's expression softened slightly. The Indomitable is a test. We appeared in your space to see how you would react. Would you attack immediately? Would you run away? Would you try to understand? You chose understanding. That matters. Chen pointed to a screen showing coordinates. These coordinates will appear after this message ends. They lead to a place where you can find answers, where you can meet us properly. But I must warn you, what you find there may frighten you. It may anger you. It will certainly change everything you think you know about this galaxy. The hologram moved closer, and Chen's eyes seemed to look directly at each team member. The Indomitable could have destroyed your station. Every weapon on this ship is active. But look at our weapon systems. Go ahead. Check them. One of the Dravanian scientists moved to a tactical console. His tentacles moved quickly across the controls. His eyes widened. These are all non-lethal weapons, designed to disable, not destroy. The ship could have paralyzed every vessel at the station but not killed anyone. Chen smiled in the recording. We are not the vengeful monsters you might expect. We had 400 years to plan revenge. We chose something different. We chose to give you a choice. Follow the coordinates if you want to know the truth, or leave. Return to your normal lives. Pretend we never came back. The decision is yours. The hologram began to fade. But know this, Chen added. Whether you come or not, humanity's isolation has ended. We are part of this galaxy again. And this time we will not be so easily forgotten. The image disappeared. Coordinates appeared on every screen in the bridge. They pointed to a region of space marked as unexplored on all galactic charts, a place no council ship had ever gone. The boarding team stood in silence. Each of them understood they had just witnessed something historic. The humans had returned, and they were nothing like the desperate dying species from 400 years ago. We need to report this immediately, Lyria said. Vextar nodded slowly. The council will not like this. The revelation that they abandoned humanity, the proof that humans survived and grew strong without them, this will cause chaos. Good, Lyria replied. Maybe chaos is what we need. Maybe it is time for the truth. As the team prepared to leave, the ship's systems began broadcasting the coordinates on all frequencies. Every vessel within range received them. Every station. Every world. The humans were not just inviting the boarding team to follow. They were inviting the entire galaxy. The Indomitable remained in position, silent once more. Its message delivered. Its test complete. And across known space, billions of beings learned that humanity had survived, had thrived, and was now calling the galaxy to account. 3 days after the Indomitable's message, a fleet of ships departed from Nexus Station. The Galactic Council had debated for hours. Some wanted to ignore the coordinates. Others demanded immediate military action. In the end, curiosity won. They had to know the truth. Ambassador Lyria led the diplomatic contingent. Admiral Vextar commanded the military escort. Ships from a dozen species followed them into the unknown. The Indomitable remained at the station, a silent reminder of humanity's return. The journey took 2 weeks through hyperspace. The coordinates led them far beyond any explored region. Stars grew sparse. Systems appeared on their sensors that existed on no maps. Someone had been living out here, hidden from the galaxy. Approaching the coordinates, the navigation officer announced. The fleet emerged from hyperspace and froze. Before them stretched the impossible. A network of human colonies spanned dozens of systems. Massive space stations orbited artificial habitats. Defensive installations bristled with weapons that made Council technology look primitive. Mining operations extracted resources from asteroids. Ships moved between planets in organized patterns. This was not the remnant of a dying species. This was an empire. How many systems is this? Lyria asked. Scans show at least 40 developed systems in this cluster alone. A sensor officer replied. And there are signs of more beyond scanner range. The human territory is larger than the entire Krevesh Empire. Vextar studied the tactical displays. These defensive platforms. The ship designs. All optimized for war. But war against whom? We have not fought humans in 400 years. A communication came through. A human voice, calm and professional. Council vessels, you are entering human space. Maintain your current position. An escort will guide you to the meeting point. Any deviation will be considered hostile. Welcome to the fringe. Human ships appeared from multiple directions. They were smaller than the Indomitable, but still impressive. Their movements were precise, coordinated. The escort surrounded the Council fleet and began guiding them forward. They passed through 3 systems before reaching their destination. Each system showed the same pattern. Heavily fortified, minimally populated, everything built for defense and war production. But something was wrong. The populations were too small for such massive infrastructure. Where are all the people? Lyria wondered aloud. These cities could hold billions. I see thousands at most. The escort brought them to a military station orbiting a blue planet. The station was functional but showed signs of damage. Repairs were ongoing. Docking ports opened to receive the diplomatic vessels. A human officer met them at the airlock. He was young, maybe 30 by human standards. But his eyes looked much older. He wore a uniform marked with symbols they did not recognize. Ambassador Lyria, Admiral Vextar. I am Commander Marcus Webb. Follow me, please. Webb led them through the station. Human crew members worked at stations, managed repairs, and moved with purpose. Every single one looked exhausted, tired in a way that went beyond mere physical fatigue. They reached a briefing room. Inside, holographic displays showed star charts. But these charts showed things that should not exist. Strange tiers in space, unusual energy readings, and hundreds of human ships positioned in defensive formations. Webb activated the main display. 400 years ago, humanity nearly died. You know this part. What you do not know is why. The official story says it was a natural disaster or perhaps a civil war. The truth is worse. The display showed something emerging from a spatial tear, creatures that hurt to look at, ships that seem to exist in multiple dimensions at once. These are the Voidborn. They come from outside our dimension. They do not want resources or territory. They want to unmake reality itself. Lyria felt her blood go cold. That is impossible. Extra-dimensional beings cannot exist. Tell them that, Webb replied bitterly. 400 years ago, they found a way into our dimension. The first breach happened near Earth. The Galactic Council of that time detected it. They knew what was coming. They could have helped us prepare. Instead, they did nothing. They hoped humanity would absorb the attack while they built their own defenses. Vextar slammed his fist on the table. That is madness. No council would sacrifice an entire species. And yet they did, Webb said. We have the communications, the secret meetings, the deliberate delays in aid. Earth burned while the Council watched and planned. 8 billion humans died in the first wave alone. The display showed Earth's destruction, cities collapsing into dimensional tears, people simply ceasing to exist as the Voidborn touched them. It was horror beyond imagination. The survivors scattered, Webb continued, but we did not run to hide. We ran to fight. We found the breach points. We learned how to seal them. We developed weapons that could hurt the Voidborn. And for 400 years we have held the line. Every single day, every single hour, humanity has been at war, protecting a galaxy that forgot we existed. Lyria looked at the star charts again, the defensive positions, the fortifications. All of this, the colonies, the weapons. Everything is to fight these Voidborn? Every resource, every ship, every human life has been devoted to this war, Webb confirmed. That is why our colonies look empty, because almost everyone is on the front lines. We have no civilians anymore, no artists or teachers or farmers except those who directly support the war effort. We gave up our entire civilization to save yours. The weight of that statement filled the room, an entire species living only for war. For 4 centuries, protecting worlds that did not even know they needed protection. Why tell us now? Vextar asked quietly. Why reveal yourselves after all this time? Webb's expression hardened. Because we are losing. The Voidborn attacks grow stronger each year. They learn from every battle. They adapt. Our defensive line is collapsing. Within 20 years, maybe less, they will break through. And when they do, they will flood into Council space. Your worlds. Your people. Everything will face what Earth faced. The room fell silent. The terrible truth settled over them all. You want our help, Lyria said. We need your help, Webb corrected. Ships, resources, personnel. We have the knowledge and experience, but we are too few. Even with all our technology, we cannot hold them back alone anymore. The Indomitable was sent as a last hope, to see if the current generation of galactic species is better than their ancestors, to see if you would help even after learning what your predecessors did. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Webb's expression turned grim. We have incoming. Voidborn Scout Force. They tracked you here. Get to the observation deck. You wanted to know what we fight. Now you will see. They rushed through the station to a reinforced viewing area. Outside, space itself was tearing. Voidborn ships emerged from the tiers. They were wrong in every way. Their shapes hurt to perceive. They moved in ways that violated physics, and they were heading straight for the station. Human ships moved to intercept. The battle that followed was unlike anything the Council representatives had ever seen. Weapons that bent space, shields that existed in multiple dimensions, ships that sacrificed themselves without hesitation to seal dimensional tiers. And then Lyria saw it. A Voidborn ship breaking through toward her delegation's vessel. Human ships moved between them, taking fire meant for others, protecting species that had abandoned them centuries ago. The Voidborn were driven back, but the cost was terrible. 3 human ships destroyed, hundreds of lives lost, for what? To save aliens who were only visiting. Webb stood beside them, watching the recovery efforts begin. This happens every day, sometimes multiple times a day. This is what humanity has become. This is the price we pay so that the rest of you can sleep peacefully in your homes. Vextar, who had seen countless battles, looked shaken. Your people died for us, for strangers, for a species whose ancestors betrayed you. Yes, Webb said simply, because someone has to. Because if we let the Voidborn through, everyone suffers. Revenge is easy. Protection is hard. We chose hard. Lyria felt tears on her face. We will help you. I do not speak for the entire Council, but I will fight for this. You should not stand alone anymore. For the first time, Webb smiled. It was tired and sad, but genuine. Thank you. But I warn you, convincing the Council will not be easy. Many will not believe the threat. Others will not want to sacrifice their comfortable lives. You have a hard fight ahead. Then we fight, Vextar declared. The Krevish know honor when we see it. What humanity does here, holding the line alone for centuries, that is true warrior spirit. You will have our support. The Council representatives stayed for 3 more days. They learned about the war, met human soldiers, saw the defensive installations that held back the darkness, and they understood. Humanity was not asking for charity. They were offering a chance for the galaxy to stand together, a chance to prove they were better than their ancestors. When they departed, they carried with them records, evidence, and the weight of terrible knowledge. The galaxy faced a threat it did not know existed, and only one species stood between civilization and annihilation. Now they had to convince everyone else to join the fight. The council chamber was in chaos. Ambassadors from hundreds of worlds shouted at each other. Some demanded immediate military support for humanity. Others called the entire story a lie. The session had been going for 6 hours with no resolution. Lyria stood at the central podium, exhausted but determined. I have shown you the evidence. Battle recordings, historical documents proving the old council's betrayal, testimony from human soldiers. The Voidborn are real. The threat is real. We must act now. A Dravanian counselor raised his tentacles. And if we commit our forces to this war, what happens when humanity wins? Will they turn their weapons on us? They have every reason to hate the council. They could have destroyed us already. Vextar interjected from his seat. The Indomitable alone could have crippled Nexus Station. They chose not to. That speaks to their intentions more than any words. Counselor Mordesh finally stood. The ancient being had been silent throughout the debate. Now every eye turned to him. I must confess something, he said quietly. I was there 400 years ago. I served on the council that abandoned humanity. The chamber fell silent. The humans speak truth, Mordesh continued. We detected the Voidborn threat. We knew they would attack Earth first, and we made a terrible choice. We sacrificed humanity, hoping to buy time for our own preparations. It is the greatest shame of my long life, a sin I have carried for 4 centuries. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some counselors looked shocked, others angry. Mordesh raised his hand for silence. But I also tell you this. If we abandon humanity again, we prove we have learned nothing. We prove we deserve whatever fate awaits us. The humans offer us redemption, a chance to stand together against the darkness. I vote yes. We must join their war, the vote was called. It was close, terribly close. Species with strong militaries like the Krevesh voted yes immediately. Scientific species interested in human technology followed, but smaller worlds feared becoming battlegrounds. Peaceful species worried about the cost. In the end, the measure passed by 7 votes. The Galactic Council would form a military alliance with humanity. Resources would be committed. Fleets would be mobilized. For the first time in 400 years, humans and the greater galaxy would work together. But not everyone was happy. As the session ended, Lyria overheard conversations. Some species already planned to send minimal forces. Others spoke of withdrawing from the council entirely. The alliance was fragile. It would take more than a vote to make it real. 3 weeks later, the first council ships arrived at humanity's defensive line. The destination was New Terra, humanity's capital world and main military headquarters. What they found took their breath away. New Terra was a fortress. The planet was surrounded by layers of defensive platforms. Orbital shipyards churned out vessels constantly. The planet's surface showed scars from hundreds of attacks. Cities had been rebuilt over and over. Every structure was designed to be defended. This was a world that had known nothing but war. Human leadership welcomed them in a massive conference hall carved into the planet's bedrock. Captain Sarah Chen was there, finally meeting them in person rather than through recordings. So were dozens of other human commanders, scientists, and officials. Chen stepped forward to address them. You came. That means more than you know. For 400 years, we fought alone. Today, that changes. Together, we have a chance to not just hold the line, but push it back, to seal the Voidborn tears permanently. Lyria noticed something as Chen spoke. Hope. For the first time since meeting humans, she saw hope in their eyes. These people had lived their entire lives in war. Multiple generations had known nothing else. But now, finally, they were not alone. The planning sessions lasted days. Humans shared everything. Technology, tactics, intelligence about the Voidborn. They held nothing back. In return, Council species offered resources humanity desperately needed. Medical supplies, food, replacement crews, rare materials. Vextar spent time with human military commanders. He learned their strategies, their sacrifices. One commander told him about losing entire fleets to seal a single breach point. We do what we must, she said. Every Voidborn ship we destroy is one less threat to everyone, even species that hate us. even species that left us to die. We protect them anyway. That statement shook Vextar. He had fought in many wars, conquered many worlds, but always for the glory of the Kravesh Empire. Humanity fought for something bigger than themselves, something he was only beginning to understand. Then came the day that would test everything. Alarm sounded across New Terra. This was not a scout force. This was a major Voidborn offensive, the largest in decades. They were coming through multiple breach points simultaneously. The timing was not coincidental. They knew the Council fleet was here. All ships to defensive positions, Chen commanded. Council vessels, you are not obligated to fight. Your diplomats are not trained for this. You may retreat to safe distance. Vextar activated his ship's weapons. The Kravesh do not retreat. We stand and fight. Across the Council fleet, other commanders made the same choice. Silvery science vessels powered up experimental weapons. Dravanian ships activated shields. Even civilian transports moved to help with evacuations. They had come to see humanity's war. Now they would be part of it. The Voidborn emerged from tiers in space. Dozens of ships that should not exist. They moved toward New Terra like a swarm. Human defenses opened fire immediately. But there were too many. The defensive line began to buckle. Lyria watched from her ship's bridge as a massive Voidborn dreadnought broke through the first line. It was heading straight for New Terra. Millions of humans lived on that world. If it reached the planet, the casualties would be catastrophic. Human ships moved to intercept, but they were engaged with other threats. The dreadnought continued forward, unstoppable. Then Vextar's flagship and Lyria's diplomatic vessel did something no one expected. They positioned themselves directly in the dreadnought's path. What are you doing? Chen's voice came over the communication channel. Your ships cannot withstand that weapon.
Move away!
You have stood alone for 400 years, Vextar replied. Today you stand alone no more. Kravesh warriors do not abandon their allies. The Silvari believe in protecting life, Lyria added. All life, including yours. We will buy you the time you need. Their shields barely slowed the dreadnought's weapon, but barely was enough. Those precious seconds allowed human ships to reposition. The Indomitable itself, fully armed and crewed now, struck from above. Chen led a coordinated assault that tore the Voidborn dreadnought apart. Vextar's ship was badly damaged. Lyria's vessel had lost all shields and half its systems, but they had made their statement. They had stood between humanity and death, not out of obligation, not out of debt, but out of choice. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it finally ended, the Voidborn were repelled, but the cost was terrible. Dozens of human ships destroyed, Council vessels damaged, lives lost from multiple species, yet they had won. Together. In the aftermath, Chen visited Vextar and Lyria in the medical bay. Both were recovering from injuries sustained in the battle. Chen looked at them with something like wonder. You barely know us. Your people have no obligation to us, yet you put yourselves between us and death. Why? Lyria smiled weakly. Because you deserved better 400 years ago. Because you deserve better now. Because the current generation can choose to be different from those who came before. Vextar nodded. And because I have learned something from humans. True strength is not conquest. It is protection. Not of the strong, but of everyone. You taught us that by example. For the first time since Earth's fall, tears ran down a human captain's face. Not tears of grief, but of relief. Of gratitude. Of hope that maybe, just maybe, the galaxy could become something better. News of the battle spread across the galaxy. Species that had been reluctant to join the Alliance reconsidered. The footage of Kravesh and Silvari ships standing with humanity moved billions. This was not just a military alliance. It was the beginning of something new. Something that could unite the galaxy in ways the old Council never did. The war was far from over. The Voidborn would return. Harder battles lay ahead. But now humanity was not alone. And the galaxy had finally begun to stand together against the darkness that threatened them all. 5 years had passed since the Indomitable first appeared at Nexus Station. The galaxy was transformed. Where once there had been division and isolation, now there was cooperation. The Silent Accord, as it came to be called, had changed everything. The name came from humanity's first appearance. Silent, waiting, watching to see what the galaxy would do. Now that silence had been replaced with communication, coordination, and shared purpose. But the name stuck, a reminder of where they had started. Ambassador Lyria stood on the bridge of a new ship. Not just any ship, but the first joint human council vessel. The UHSF Unity was designed by human engineers and built with resources from dozens of species. It represented everything the Accord stood for. Different peoples working together toward a common goal. Around her, the bridge crew reflected this diversity. Human navigation officers worked alongside Dravanian sensor operators. Krevesh tactical specialists coordinated with Silvery scientists. What had seemed impossible 5 years ago was now routine. Admiral Vexitar commanded a battle group that mixed Krevesh dreadnoughts with human destroyers. His warriors had learned human tactics. Humans had learned Krevesh close-quarters combat techniques. The combination created something stronger than either alone. The war against the Voidborn continued, but the momentum had shifted. With Council resources backing human knowledge and experience, the defensive line had stabilized. More than that, they had begun pushing forward. Breach points that humanity could only contain were now being permanently sealed. New Terra was being rebuilt again, but this time with help. Silvari architects designed cities that blended beauty with defense. Krevesh engineers reinforced structures. Species from across the galaxy contributed to healing a world that had sacrificed so much. For the first time in 400 years, human children could imagine a future that was not entirely about war. But challenges remained. Some species still resented humanity's rapid rise to prominence within the Accord. Others feared human military power. Old prejudices died slowly. There were incidents, misunderstandings, sometimes conflicts. Yet each time, leaders like Chen, Lyria, and Vextar worked to bridge the gaps. They understood that the Accord was fragile. It required constant effort to maintain. Trust had to be earned again and again. Counselor Mordesh had retired from the Council proper but remained as an advisor. He spent his time documenting the truth about Earth's fall, making sure the real history was taught to all species. "We cannot build a better future while lying about the past," he said. "The young must know what we did, and what humanity sacrificed to protect us despite our betrayal." Today, the largest joint operation in Accord history was about to begin. Intelligence suggested they had found the main Voidborn command node, the source of the invasions. If they could destroy it, they might be able to stop new breaches from forming. It was a desperate gamble, but it was time. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, now the flagship of the combined fleet. Hundreds of ships from dozens of species surrounded her. Human vessels that had fought alone for centuries. Council ships that had learned what it meant to stand on the line. "All united, all ships report ready," the communication officer announced. Chen took a deep breath. This moment felt impossibly far from that day, 5 years ago when she recorded messages for the boarding team, when humanity had been alone and desperate, when reaching out to the galaxy had been their last hope. "This is Captain Chen to all Accord vessels. 5 years ago, humanity returned from the darkness. We came in silence, watching to see if the galaxy had changed. You answered that question. Not with words, but with actions. You stood beside us. You fought with us. You proved that this generation is different." She paused, looking at the tactical display showing the massive fleet. "For 400 years, we held this line alone. Today, we cross it together. We take the fight to the enemy. We show the Voidborn that this galaxy will not surrender. Not to them. Not to fear. Not to the mistakes of the past. We stand united. We stand strong. We stand for everyone who cannot stand for themselves." Across the fleet, crews from 100 worlds listened. Some had lost friends and family to the Voidborn. Others had never seen combat before this war. But they were all here. All committed. Vextar activated his communication channel. "The Krevesh have a saying. A warrior alone is formidable. Warriors together are unstoppable. Today we are unstoppable. For humanity. For the Council. For everyone who calls this galaxy home." Lyria added her voice. "The Silvari believe that all intelligent life is connected. That what harms one harms all. Today we prove that truth. Today we show that standing together is not just strategy. It is who we choose to be." Chen smiled. "All ships. Jump on my mark. Let us end this war. 3, 2, 1, mark." The fleet entered hyperspace as one. Hundreds of ships moving with perfect coordination. When they emerged at the target coordinates, they faced the impossible. The Voidborn command node was massive, a structure that existed partially in multiple dimensions, defended by more enemy ships than they had ever seen in one place. The battle that followed would be remembered for generations. It was brutal, costly, ships were lost, heroes fell, but the Accord held together. When human vessels were overwhelmed, Council ships covered them. When Council forces faltered, humans reinforced them. They fought not as separate species, but as one people. The command node's defenses were formidable, but they had been designed to fight humanity alone. Against the combined innovations of dozens of species, they could not adapt fast enough. Silvery scientists found a weakness in its dimensional shielding. Kravish warriors exploited that weakness. Human pilots delivered the killing blow. When the command node collapsed, it took the surrounding void-born fleet with it. Dimensional tiers across the entire sector began closing. The invasions would not stop completely. The void-born were too persistent for that. But this was a victory like none before. A turning point in a war that had lasted 4 centuries. The fleet returned to New Terra as heroes. Every species celebrated together. Humans wept openly, finally believing that maybe, just maybe, they could win this war, that their children might know peace. In the aftermath, Chen, Lyria, and Vextar met privately. They stood on a rebuilt plaza that overlooked New Terra's capital city. Construction continued everywhere. Humans and aliens working side by side. Children from multiple species played together in parks that had been battlefields years before. It worked, Chen said quietly. The accord worked. Not perfectly, not without cost, but it worked. Because we chose to trust, Lyria replied. When the Indomitable appeared, you gave us a choice. Attack, flee, or understand. We chose understanding. That choice changed everything, Vextar nodded. And humanity chose to protect rather than take revenge. That choice mattered just as much. You could have let the Voidborn through, let the galaxy that betrayed you burn. Instead, you held the line. For everyone. Chen smiled. We learned something during our isolation. Revenge is easy. It feels good in the moment but leaves you hollow. Protection is harder. It costs more. But it means something. It builds something worth keeping. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the sunset paint New Terra's sky in colors of orange and purple. The same sun that had shone on a dead world now lit a healing one. The same species that had been alone for 400 years now had friends. Allies, family. What comes next? Lyria asked. More fighting, Chen admitted. The Voidborn will not give up easily. But now we fight together, and eventually, when this war finally ends, we build something new. Not the old council that failed us. Something better. A true union of equals. The Silent Accord, Vextar said. A fitting name. We came together not through loud declarations, but through quiet choices. Through actions that proved what words alone could not. The 3 of them, representing their species and all they had overcome, looked to the future. A future where humans were not alone. Where the galaxy stood united. Where old wounds could heal and new friendships could grow. Far above them, the Indomitable orbited New Terra. The ship that had appeared from nowhere. The ship that had tested the galaxy's character. The ship that had changed everything. Its running lights joined thousands of others from the Accord fleet. A constellation of unity against the darkness. In the command centers, orders went out for the next operation. At the shipyards, new vessels were being built. In the academies, human and alien students learned together. The war continued. But now it was not humanity's war alone. It was everyone's war. Everyone's responsibility. Everyone's chance to prove they were better than their ancestors. And on countless worlds across the galaxy, beings of every species looked to the stars and knew they were protected. Not by one exhausted, desperate people, but by an alliance of civilizations standing together. The Silent Accord had begun with a single ship appearing from nowhere. It had grown into something that could save the galaxy. Captain Sarah Chen sent her daily report to command. Mission accomplished, fleet returning to base, casualties acceptable, victory achieved. But she added one line at the end, a line that summarized everything they had learned, everything they had built. For 400 years we stood alone. For 400 years we held the line. Today we push forward, and the galaxy stands with us,